Ava had gone on many dates and always had an exit plan in place. This is what experience had taught her. When her friends set her up with Lucas on a blind date, they hit it off. The next day when she went into work at the ER, her coworker smirked at her. "It looks like someone had a good date," she teased. "Actually, I did," Ava said, grinning. For the rest of the day, she felt as if she was floating on air. And even when they were slammed in the emergency room, her mood was light and happy. During lunch, she checked her phone and discovered a text message from Lucas. She smiled as the image of her date floated in her head. She had a lot in common with him, and the icing on the cake was that he was tall, dark, handsome, and had a killer smile. She reviewed his message and saw that he was asking whether she wanted to go on a day trip with him to Vancouver, a 4 hours drive from where she lived. "I'd love to," she texted back. Normally she didn't agree to second dates, but she really liked Lucas. Plus she needed a break from working at the hospital, and this spontaneous date with Lucas sounded different and fun. On their date, they wandered around the Granville Island Public Market and checked out the culinary delights that the different stalls offered. They fully immersed themselves in the sights and smells of the busy market. They grabbed some lunch and found a spot to enjoy the street music, while hungry seagulls flew overhead and tourists wandered in every direction. When they arrived in the city in the afternoon, it was sunny, but the sun was now hidden behind dark clouds. The wind was also starting to pick up. "We should probably get going," Ava said reluctantly. Lucas agreed. When they made it to the truck, the rain started to fall. Soon the small shower turned into a full-out downpour. "Did you know that the weather was going to get this bad?" Ava asked, her voice filled with worry. "No," he said. "It looked like a nice day and I didn't exactly check the weather before we left." Ava turned on the radio and felt the blood draining from her face as she listened to the announcer's dire warning of a severe storm headed their way. "Maybe if we drive fast enough we can outrun the storm," Lucas said. Ava didn't have a better plan, so she agreed to his suggestion. She bit her lip as she stared out from the passenger side. The rain was now coming down in sheets, and it was impossible to see where they were going. It was also getting dangerous, and they were forced to slow down. "I have some friends nearby," Lucas said, turning onto the side of the road. He took out his phone. "I'll call them and see if we can crash at their place." When they drove back on the highway, it became obvious that they wouldn't be able to make it to his friend's house. Lucas let out a curse, and all Ava could do was stare at the flashing road sign. Closed. The map on her phone showed red dots all over the place, indicating more highway closures. With the weather slated to get even worse, they had no other options but to return to the city. Ava felt the tension rise to her shoulders. Did she trust Lucas enough to spend a night with him at a hotel? This was only the second date. What if he really wasn't who he seemed? What if he was a psycho? Worry gripped her. There was a reason why she always had an exit plan in place. Now she was stranded on a date that had no ending in sight. Unfortunately, Ava had few choices. Both of them were headed in the same direction, and they needed to return home. They had jobs to attend to on Monday, and they had families that would worry about them. But none of Ava's fears were justified. Lucas was a gentleman, and he tried his best to make her feel comfortable. The next day, they left the hotel early. There was only one highway going north that was open, and they needed to get on it before it closed. The interior of the truck was silent except for the radio announcer's voice. Reports of mudslides and floodings hung heavily in the enclosed space. They stopped at the grocery store, and Lucas loaded his truck with gas and snacks before heading out on the road to the next major town. When they finally reached Whistler, they stopped at a cafe to regroup and figure out what to do next. Ava checked the flights on her phone, but gasped when she saw the astronomical prices. Flying home was out of the question. Meanwhile, Lucas used his phone to scour for an alternative route. "There's only one route that will take you where you want to go," a man nearby said. He walked over to them and pointed to a thin line on Lucas's map. You need to take this Forest Service road. Is it safe? Ava asked fearfully. From what she knew, service roads weren't maintained, and if they got stuck, there would be no one to help them. Safe or not, we have to take a chance, Lucas said grimly. The man grunted his agreement. I'm assuming that the truck parked outside is yours, he said. Lucas confirmed that it belonged to him. Well, the man continued, if it's a 4-wheel drive, you'll be able to make it to your destination. The stranger's advice gave them hope. As they drove on the service road, she saw that it was one long, narrow path that hugged the side of the mountain. In the distance, she saw the tops of other mountains. The view was breathtaking, except she was fully aware that there were no barriers to prevent their vehicle from falling off the cliff. And if they made one wrong move, she swallowed as she tried to shake off the fearful possibilities. She checked her phone and saw that she had no phone signal. The radio had cut out long ago. Don't worry, we'll just continue driving, Lucas said. He reached over and squeezed her hand. His calm manner caused her fears to subside. She remembered that he had gotten them this far, and they were still alive. 3 hours later, as they slowly traveled to a higher altitude, wind and snow whistled and rattled against the side of the truck. It was colder now, and the snow was coming down fast and furious like a blizzard, forcing Lucas to turn on his high beams. To add to their troubles, it was starting to get dark. But then the landscape began to change, and the path appeared less treacherous. When Ava saw a paved road, she shouted excitedly and gave Lucas a high five. They had made it safely to the other side. They drove to a main road and saw a flashing sign. Suddenly, the excitement she experienced dropped. Another highway closure, Ava said, frustration in her voice. The last thing either of them wanted was to turn back and travel through the service road and potentially navigate through another harrowing storm. We'll just sit tight and wait until the road reopens, Lucas said. He pulled out a chocolate bar and handed it to her. They spent the next while talking about and laughing over their childhood escapades. 2 hours sped by, and the road reopened. Finally, she exclaimed. When Lucas dropped her home several hours later, she turned to him and looked him in the eyes. Thank you for everything, she said. She leaned closer to him and kissed him, and he kissed her back. Ava had never met anyone like Lucas. He was smart, handsome, and during their stressful ordeal, he was courageous and kept his cool at all times. There was no exit plans on this date with Lucas, nor did she want one. The bond they shared was strong, and their journey to love was just beginning. What did you guys think of the story? Please comment in the comment section below. I can't wait to read your answers and discussions. Thanks for watching! And don't forget to like and subscribe to get the latest stories to warm your heart. Until next time, bye!